My girlfriend uploaded a late-night story from a hotel room captioned, "Peace at last, relieved face." I zoomed into the reflection in the mirror and saw enough to end everything without saying a word. "You've been so distant lately. I feel like I'm dating a ghost." She said that to me on a Tuesday night over pasta she'd cooked herself, while her phone buzzed 3 times in a row and she flipped it face down without even glancing at it. I looked at her. I looked at the phone. And then I looked back at her face, and she was already looking at me. I soft, waiting for me to apologize. So I did. I said, "You're right. I'm sorry." And I meant it. I genuinely believed her. That's the part that still gets me when I think about it now. Not the betrayal itself. Not the hotel. Not the mirror. Not what I saw in that reflection at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday night when she was supposed to be at a work conference 4 hours away. The part that gets me is that I apologized for being distant to the person who was already planning her exit before I even realized the door was open. I didn't know any of that then, but I would soon. And when I found out, I didn't scream. I didn't call. I didn't confront. I did something far worse. I went completely, terrifyingly quiet. You need to understand what I thought I had before I tell you what I lost. Because if I just say girlfriend, you'll picture something casual, something replaceable, something that ends, and then you move on. That's not what this was. This was 3 years. 3 years of inside jokes that only made sense to 2 people in the world. 3 years of lazy Sunday mornings where neither of us moved until noon. 3 years of her stealing my hoodie every single winter and pretending she didn't know where it went. 3 years of me building a version of the future that had her in every single room. I had already started looking at rings. Not in a vague, someday kind of way. In a tab open on my browser, saved to a folder, talk to her dad at Christmas kind of way. Her father liked me. Her little sister called me her brother-in-law as a joke, and none of us corrected her. I had a life with this woman. I had a whole, real, textured, breathing life with her. And then she posted a story. 10 seconds of her lying in a hotel bed. Dim lighting. Room service tray on the nightstand. Captioned, "Peace at last." And somewhere in the background, just barely visible in the full-length mirror bolted to the wall near the bathroom door, was a reflection that answered every question I didn't know I should have been asking. I didn't realize it then, but that moment changed everything. Not just the relationship. Me. It changed me. If you enjoy real stories like this, subscribe, because what happened next changed everything for me. I was 29. She was 27. We'd been together since a mutual friend's birthday party where she'd argued with me about whether a certain film deserved its award, and I'd been so entertained by how passionately wrong she was that I asked for her number before she finished her sentence. Her name was Chelsea. We lived 40 minutes apart and spent most weekends together at my apartment. That's all you need to know. Everything else will come out in the story. The conference was announced 6 weeks before it happened. Chelsea worked in marketing. Mid-sized firm. Good salary, decent hours, occasional travel. She'd been to 2 or 3 work trips in the time we'd been together, and they were never a big deal. She'd text me from airports. Send me photos of hotel breakfast buffets like I'd find them interesting. Call me before bed. Normal stuff. This trip felt the same at first. She mentioned it over dinner one evening. Said her company was sending a small team to a regional marketing summit. 3 days, 2 nights. Nice hotel. The firm was covering everything. I said that sounded great. She nodded. Went back to her food. That was it. No tension. No weird energy. Just a dinner conversation that ended and became nothing. But here's the first thing I should have noticed. She didn't ask me to help her pack. Small thing. Barely worth mentioning. Except that Chelsea always asked me to help her pack. Not because she needed help. Because she liked the company. She'd lay everything out on the bed and I'd sit on the edge and hand her things, and she'd tell me what outfit was for what occasion, and I'd pretend to care, and it was one of those stupid little rituals that sounds meaningless, but somehow meant everything. This time she packed alone. At night. After I'd gone home. She sent me a photo the next morning of her suitcase by the front door with a "wish me luck" text. I sent back a heart. She drove herself to the airport. Didn't ask me to drop her off. Said parking was easy and she had an early flight. I shrugged it off. I was busy that week anyway. Work had been stacking up and I had a project deadline, and honestly her trip felt like it gave both of us a little breathing room. Which, looking back, should have told me something about where we actually were. But I wasn't looking back. I was just living. Day 1 of her trip, she texted normally. Flight landed. Hotel is beautiful honestly. Then a photo of the lobby. Marble floors, high ceilings, a chandelier that probably cost more than my car. I said, "Your company is spending real money." She replied with a laughing emoji. That night she said she was exhausted and going to sleep early. "Big day tomorrow. Miss you." I said I missed her too. Fell asleep watching something on TV. Day 2. She was quiet during the day. Said the sessions ran long. She texted me around 4 p.m. with a photo of a conference room snack table. "They fed us like we're livestock, but honestly I respect the volume." I laughed. Sent her back something stupid. She didn't reply until 7. Said they were going out as a team for dinner. Some restaurant downtown. I said have fun. She sent a thumbs up. At 10 p.m. I texted asking how dinner was. Read at 10:03 p.m. No reply until 11:19 p.m. So good. We just got back. Tired. Calling it a night. Talk tomorrow, red heart. I stared at that message for a second. Not because it was alarming. Just because something felt slightly off in the rhythm of it. Like when a song you know really well has one note just barely out of tune and you can't explain why it sounds wrong. You just know that it does. But I put my phone down. Went to sleep. And I forgot about it by morning. Day 3. Final day. She was flying back the next morning. I was planning to cook dinner for when she got home. Nothing fancy, just her favorite pasta, the one with the lemon cream sauce she'd taught me how to make after I complained about it at a restaurant once. I was in a good mood that day. Missed her properly. The kind of missing that only happens when you're close enough to the end of the separation that you can actually feel the return. I texted her in the afternoon. "Landing tomorrow at what time?" "I'm going to cook." She replied quickly. 10:45. "You don't have to do that." I said I want to. She sent a heart. And I went back to work feeling solid. Feeling like us. That night, around 9 p.m., I was on the couch half watching a game when my phone lit up. Not a text. A story notification. Chelsea had posted. I opened it without thinking. That's what you do. Somebody posts, you watch. It's reflex. The story loaded. It was a 10-second clip. Dim, warm hotel room lighting. The kind that comes from lamps, not overhead lights. The camera was pointing upward from the bed, aimed toward the ceiling and then drifting slightly. Chelsea's voice in the background. Just a soft exhale, maybe a small sound of contentment. And the caption sitting there in white text at the top of the screen. Peace at last. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that should have stopped me. But something did. I watched it again. I don't know why. Just something. Something in the periphery of the frame. In the background. Along the far wall. There was a mirror. A full-length mirror. The kind hotels bolt to the wall near the bathroom door, so you can check your outfit before you leave. And in that mirror, I paused the story. It's almost impossible to pause those things at the exact right frame. I must have tried 8 or 9 times. Letting it play, stopping it, rewinding, stopping it again. And then I got it. One clean frame. I screenshot it. I opened the screenshot. I zoomed in. The mirror reflection was dark. The room lighting was low and the angle wasn't ideal. But the mirror caught the other side of the room. The side the camera wasn't showing. And in that reflection, I could see the shape of a second lamp. A second lamp that was on. Which meant the room was lit on both sides. Which meant the dim, romantic quality of the lighting wasn't from a single bedside lamp the way it appeared. It was staged. Both lamps were on. She'd specifically pointed the camera away from the brighter side. I sat with that for a second. And then I zoomed in further. And that's when I saw it. In the lower left corner of the mirror's reflection, just barely visible, dark against dark, was the outline of a jacket. A jacket draped over a chair. A jacket that was clearly not the kind of thing Chelsea would wear. Not her size. Not her style. Broader shoulders. The kind of jacket that belongs to someone larger. Someone male. I put my phone down on the coffee table. Face up. Screenshot still open. I sat there for maybe 45 seconds without moving. And then something clicked off inside me. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like a light switch in an empty room. I didn't call her. That's the first thing people always ask when I tell this story. They say, "Why didn't you just call her right then?" And I understand why that seems like the obvious move. But here's the thing about being the kind of person I am. I don't react. I gather. I've always been that way. Even as a kid, when something hit me hard, I'd go quiet. Not cold. Not calculated. Just quiet. Because I've learned that the first thing you feel is almost never the whole truth. And if you act on the first thing you feel, you hand over your power before you even know the full shape of what you're dealing with. So I didn't call. I sat there. And I thought, the jacket could be nothing. I knew that. A colleague's jacket left in her room after a team hangout. A jacket she borrowed. A jacket that belonged to a hotel staff member who'd done a turn-down service. There were explanations. Thin ones. But they existed. The staging of the lighting bothered me more than the jacket. Why frame the shot to hide half the room? If you're alone in a hotel room, winding down, feeling peaceful, you just film. You don't think about angles. You don't think about what the mirror might catch. Unless you do. Unless you're very aware of exactly what's in that room. I picked up my phone again. I opened the story. I watched it one more time. And I noticed something I'd completely missed the first 2 times. Her voice. Or rather, the absence of her voice. The story had no words. Just that exhale. But underneath it, under the sound of her breathing and the faint hum of hotel air conditioning, was the faint sound of running water. Shower water. Shower water in a room that Chelsea was filming as though she were alone. I put my phone back down. I got up. I went to the kitchen. I drank a glass of water. I came back, and I started thinking about the last 6 weeks. Here's the thing about hindsight. It's not really about seeing new things. It's about finally letting yourself see the things you already saw. I thought about the dinner, the face-down phone, her buzzing messages. I thought about how she'd started going to the gym on Thursday evenings about 2 months ago, which was new. She'd always been a morning workout person. Gym at 7 a.m., back home by 8:30, shower, work. That was Chelsea's rhythm. But suddenly Thursdays after work. I'd asked once. She said a friend had invited her to a group fitness class. I said cool. I didn't think twice. I thought about how her energy toward me had subtly shifted over the past 8 weeks. Not cold. Not mean. Just slightly removed. Like she was present but processing something. I'd noticed. I'd even asked. Which is when she told me I was being distant. Turned it around so cleanly. So effortlessly. I remember feeling guilty after that conversation. I remember thinking I needed to be more attentive. I remember making small efforts. Flowers once. A date night. Being more present when we were together. And she'd received all of it warmly. Kissed me. Thanked me. Said she felt the difference. And I believed her. Because that's what you do when you trust someone. You believe them. I thought about her work colleague. There was one she'd mentioned a handful of times over the past year. His name was Aaron. Not on the band list. Just a guy. New hire. Worked on the same team. She'd mentioned him in passing the way you mention coworkers. Nothing flagged. Except about 6 weeks ago, maybe right around when the gym Thursday started, she stopped mentioning him. Completely. People who exist in your daily life don't disappear from conversation unless you make them disappear. You don't stop mentioning someone because they became less relevant. You stop mentioning someone because you became very aware that you keep mentioning them. I hadn't made that connection at the time. I was making it now. I looked at the clock. 11:02 p.m. I opened Instagram. I went to Chelsea's profile. I looked at her followers. I found Aaron. I clicked on his profile. Public account. Fitness posts, food, travel photos. Nothing useful. I went back to her profile. I scrolled through her tagged photos looking for context. And then I went to the story again. And I paused it again. And I zoomed into the mirror. And this time, because I was looking for a different shape, I found one. On the far right edge of the mirror's reflection. Just barely. A shoulder. The curve of a shoulder. In the doorway between the main room and the bathroom. Someone standing just out of frame. Someone just barely caught in the angle of the mirror. Someone who didn't know what mirrors can see. I zoomed in as far as the screenshot quality allowed. The shoulder was bare, meaning whoever was standing in that doorway had just come out of the shower and was standing there, watching her film, waiting for her to finish. I didn't sleep that night. Not a single hour. I lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling and felt the particular weight of something that isn't grief yet because it hasn't been confirmed yet. That in-between space, where you know, but you don't have the words for it yet. Where everything is still technically possible. The window is still technically open, but you can feel the temperature already dropping. I thought about calling my best friend Nate. He knew Chelsea, liked her, would have lost his mind hearing this. I didn't want that energy. I didn't want someone else's emotion layered on top of mine. I needed to think. So I thought. At 2 a.m. I got up and sat at my kitchen table with my phone, and I pulled up every piece of information that was available to me through things she'd shared or posted or said. I checked if Aaron had posted anything that night. He had. A photo, posted at 7:34 p.m. Tagged location, a bar in the city she was in. Not the same city he lived in. Same city she was in. The photo was him and 3 other people, one of whom I didn't recognize. I looked at the other faces. None of them were Chelsea. But that didn't matter. The point was, he was there, in the same city, on the same night, at 7:34 p.m., which was around the same time Chelsea told me her team was at dinner. and stopped responding to my texts until after 11. I sat back. I put my phone flat on the table, and I asked myself one question. What do you want to do with this? Not what should I do? Not what do people do? What do I want? And the answer came back clear. I want to know. Everything. All of it. Completely. Before I say a single word. The next morning I was up by 6. Showered. Made coffee. Sat at the table again. The plan I had was simple. Not elaborate. Not obsessive. Just clear. Chelsea was landing at 10:45. She expected me to cook dinner tonight. She expected things to be normal. And I was going to let her believe that. For now. Not to be cruel. Not to trap her. But because I had maybe one shot at seeing her face before she knew anything was different. And I wanted to see it. I wanted to watch her walk through the door. Come home from the hotel. From him. From whatever this was. And greet me. And I wanted to see what that looked like. I wanted to see if I could see it. Before she knew I was looking. So I cooked. Lemon cream pasta. The recipe she'd taught me. Garlic bread. Her favorite dessert. Just a box of those salted chocolate things she'd been buying since I'd known her. I set the table properly. I cleaned the apartment. I did everything right. And I waited. She texted at 11:03 to say she'd landed. I said, can't wait. She sent a heart. At 12:40 p.m., her key hit the lock. I was in the kitchen when she walked in. She rolled her suitcase to the wall, dropped her bag on the couch. Oh my God, it smells amazing in here. I came around the counter. I looked at her. She looked good. Rested, actually. The kind of rested that comes from deep sleep, not the kind that comes from exhausting travel. She crossed the room and hugged me. I hugged her back. Full. Normal. She pulled back and kissed me once. I missed you, she said. Missed you too, I said. And I watched her eyes. They were easy. Relaxed. No weight in them. Not even the faint flicker of someone carrying something. Just easy. That told me more than the mirror had. We ate lunch. She talked about the conference. Sessions, speakers, networking. She mentioned a few names I didn't know. She mentioned nothing unusual. At one point she mentioned Aaron. Casually. The way you mention someone to inoculate a story. She said, Aaron was at the summit too, actually. Didn't even know the company was sending him. We ran into each other at registration. She said at mid-bite. Eyes on her plate. I said, oh yeah? That's funny. She nodded. Small world. And she kept eating. I kept eating. And I filed it. That evening, Chelsea went to shower. She left her phone on the kitchen counter. She always did this. I'd never touched it. Never felt the need to. This time I stood in the kitchen for a long moment staring at it. I'm not someone who goes through people's phones. I believe that's a line you don't cross. I still believe it. But the problem is, I didn't need to cross it. Because while I was standing there deciding not to touch it, it lit up. A notification preview. Instagram. A DM. From a name I recognized. Hey, forgot to mention you left your earring in my room. I have it. Let me know. The preview cut off there. I didn't touch the phone. I read it from where I stood. The notification faded. I stayed where I was. Earring. His room. I thought about the shoulder in the mirror. I thought about the running shower water. I thought about the jacket on the chair. I went to the living room and sat down. I didn't feel like screaming. I didn't feel like crying. I felt something settle in me. The way water settles when it finally stops being disturbed. Chelsea came out of the shower 20 minutes later in a towel, talking about what she wanted to watch that night, and I smiled at her, and I said whatever I said, and we watched TV, and I was completely calm. And she had no idea. None. Here's the part one need to tell you now. Because it changes the shape of everything. About 18 months into our relationship, around the 1.5-year mark, Chelsea and I went through a difficult 3 months. Not anything external. Just the natural friction of two people becoming real to each other after the honeymoon period ends. She was stressed about work. I was distant, genuinely that time, not in the way she'd later weaponize it. We argued more, communicated less, and at some point during those months, Chelsea had told me that she'd gotten close with a coworker at her previous job. Emotionally close. She framed it as, we leaned on each other during a hard time, and then I realized it had gone further than it should have, and I pulled back before anything physical happened, and I told you because I want you to know who I am. I respected that, more than respected it. I thought it showed integrity. I thought it showed self-awareness. I thought, she came to me with this. She chose honesty. She chose us, and we worked through it. We came out stronger. At least I thought we did. Now, sitting in my living room watching TV with her warm against my side, I was rethinking the entire architecture of that story. Because that emotional affair at her old job had happened around the same time she first mentioned Aaron. I hadn't known that then. I knew it now. I lay awake again that night after she fell asleep, and I understood something. That confession 18 months ago wasn't integrity. It was insurance. She'd told me about the first one to build a precedent, to become the person in our relationship who was honest about near misses, so that if I ever got suspicious, I'd think back to that conversation. I'd think, she told me before, she'd never hide something like that, except she was hiding exactly that, and she'd been doing it for longer than I'd thought. I made my decision at 3:17 a.m. No drama, no speech, no confrontation planned, just clarity. I was going to leave, but I was going to leave correctly, meaning completely, meaning not in a way that gave her a platform to argue, not in a way that turned into a conversation about my feelings and her explanations and both of us crying and her saying it didn't mean anything and me wondering if I should believe her. I'd watched that movie. I knew how it ended. People don't survive that version of things whole. They survive it smaller, angrier, half trusting themselves forever after. I wasn't going to do that to myself. So here's what I decided. I would spend the next few days behaving completely normally. I would be present, warm, attentive. I would give her absolutely zero reason to suspect anything was changing. And in that time, I would move everything important out of the shared spaces of our lives. She didn't live with me. We'd talked about it, but hadn't done it yet, which meant this was cleaner than it could have been. Her stuff at my place, there wasn't much. A few things in the bathroom, a drawer in my bedroom she'd claimed, a jacket, some books. I would box all of it quietly and return it. I would cancel the dinner reservation I'd made for her birthday next month. I would remove her as beneficiary from the minor financial thing I'd set up when we first got serious. I would let the ring tab close. And then, when everything was done and clean, I would send her one message. 1. No explanation, no accusations, no details, just a door closing. She left my apartment on Sunday afternoon, kissed me at the door, said, "This weekend was exactly what I needed." I said, "Me too." She drove away. I stood at the window for a moment, and then I got to work. First thing, I called Nate. Not to tell him everything, just to tell him enough. I said, "Hey, Chelsea and I are done. I'm not ready to talk about the full thing yet, but I need you to know." He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you need anything?" I said, "Not yet. Just wanted someone to know." He respected that. That's why Nate is my best friend. He didn't push. He said, "When you're ready." I said, "I know." And I hung up. Second thing, I changed every shared streaming password. Small, symbolic, but important to me. Third thing, I carefully removed her things from my apartment. Not angrily. Her dry shampoo and the face wash she kept on my bathroom shelf. The 3 books on my nightstand that she'd left mid-read. A pair of slippers. A necklace she'd left in my top drawer. A phone charger she'd woven behind my nightstand. A photo on my fridge, just the 2 of us at a beach a year and a half ago. I held the photo for a moment. Not because I was wavering, just because I knew this was the last time I'd look at it and feel what I used to feel when I looked at it. Then I put it face down in the box, and I sealed the box. Fourth thing, over the next 2 days I maintained a routine. We texted. Normal frequency. I was warm. She had no idea. She texted me a voice note on Monday night, just talking about her day, nothing important, just that comfortable relationship chatter that becomes background music when you've been with someone long enough. I listened to the whole thing. I texted back, "Sounds like a long day. Get some rest." She sent a heart. I set the phone down. On Tuesday evening, I did the last thing. I opened my messages. I typed what I decided to say. Then I deleted it. Then I wrote it again. Simpler this time. Shorter. I read it 3 times. And I sent it. The message was this. I know about Aaron. I saw enough. I don't need an explanation, and I'm not interested in having a conversation about this. Your things are in a box at my building's front desk. The door code is the same, so you can get it whenever. Please don't reach out. I genuinely wish you well. That was it. No anger. No accusations spelled out. No detail about the story or the mirror or the shoulder or the earring notification. Just, I know, and I'm done. She read it immediately. Typing indicator appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Disappeared. For 6 minutes. Then my phone rang. Her name on the screen. I watched it ring. It rang out. She called again. I watched it ring out again. Then a text. "Please just talk to me. Whatever you think happened isn't what happened. I need to explain. Please." I read it. I didn't reply. She called a 3rd time. I silenced my phone and put it in a drawer. Not because I was angry. Because there was nothing she could say that would change the shape of what I'd seen. Not the mirror. Not the shoulder. Not the earring in his room. Not the Thursdays. Not the way she'd flipped her phone face down at that dinner table and then told me I was the distant one. No explanation rearranges those pieces into something that makes sense. Some things you don't argue your way through. You just leave. She texted 17 times over the next 3 hours. I know because I looked eventually. Not to respond. Just to know. A few of the messages went from pleading to frustrated. One of them said, "You're being so cold. You won't even let me speak. That's not fair." I read that one twice. Because that word, fair, is something people reach for when they know they don't have a better argument. When the actual argument has already been lost. I put my phone back in the drawer. 3 days later, I finally talked to Nate properly. We met at a bar near my place. I told him the whole thing. The story, the mirror, the jacket, the shower sound, the shoulder, the earring. He listened without interrupting, which for Nate is an extraordinary act of self-control. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. And then he said, "Can I tell you something?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "About 8 months ago, I was at that place downtown, the one with the rooftop bar, and I saw Chelsea there." I said, "Okay." He said, "She was with a guy?" I didn't think much of it. You guys have your own lives, you know? But I thought it was odd because it was a Thursday night, and she told me when I waved over that she was with work people. But it was just the two of them at the bar. I said, "And you didn't say anything to me?" He looked genuinely uncomfortable. I didn't have anything concrete. It was just a drink. I didn't want to be the guy who blows up a 3-year relationship over a drink. I understood. I would have done the same. Probably. But it meant the Thursdays weren't recent. 8 months. 8 months of gym excuses. 8 months of a face-down phone. 8 months of me apologizing for being distant. I finished my drink, ordered another, and felt something I can only describe as the complete absence of surprise, which is its own kind of grief. When the truth is worse than your worst guess, and you're not even shocked, that means some part of you already knew, and chose not to know, and that part of yourself is who you have to forgive. 2 weeks after the breakup, our mutual friend, the one whose birthday party is where Chelsea and I first met, a woman named Qley, texted me. I'll be honest, I'd been expecting this. Qley was Chelsea's closer friend than mine. I assumed she'd been recruited. The text said, "Hey, I know what's happened, and I want you to know I'm not reaching out on her behalf. I just want to check on you." I believed her. Qley wasn't that kind of person. I said I was okay. She said, "Can I tell you one thing, and then I'll drop it?" I said sure. She said, "She's been telling people you were emotionally unavailable for over a year. That's the story she's been building." I sat with that. She continued, "I didn't believe it. I've seen you two together. But I wanted you to know what narrative is out there." I thanked her. We talked for a few more minutes about nothing important. And then I sat alone with what she'd told me. Emotionally unavailable. That was the hedge. That was the architecture. She'd been constructing a version of our relationship for public consumption that made her actions defensible. If I'm emotionally unavailable, she was just lonely. If I was distant, she just found comfort elsewhere. It's a clean story, especially to people who only know their version of you. The problem is, the people who know you don't believe it. And the people who do believe it didn't know you. So their opinion is built on a foundation she laid, not on anything real. I made peace with that faster than I expected. The box was picked up from the front desk on a Wednesday afternoon. I know because the desk clerk texted me. She'd been picking up my packages for 2 years and knew not to let anyone in without checking. I said it was fine. Later that day, I deleted our conversation thread. Not aggressively. Just tidying. The way you return library books. Not because you hated them. Just because you're done with them. I deleted the photos on my phone. Not all at once. I took a few days. Not because it was hard to delete them, but because I didn't want to be dramatic about it. Every deletion was quiet. It was just maintenance. One night, about 3 weeks out, I opened the browser on my laptop, found the Ring tab, looked at it one last time. A simple band, white gold, clean. Something I genuinely thought about putting on a hand I trusted completely. I closed the tab, and that was that. I won't tell you I healed instantly. I won't tell you I didn't have nights where the anger came up sideways, where I'd be cooking dinner and suddenly feel it. Not sadness exactly, but something colder. The particular cold of having loved someone completely and having been partially invisible to them the entire time. I had those nights. I sat with them. I didn't call her. I didn't reach back out. I didn't post anything cryptic online. I went to work. I cooked. I went to the gym in the mornings, which was always my time anyway. I went back to reading before bed instead of watching TV, which was something I'd let slip somewhere in the middle of a relationship that slowly became someone else's schedule. I got myself back. Not dramatically, not in a montage, just gradually, the way light comes back in the morning. Not all at once, just incrementally more, until suddenly it's day again. Kayla told me 6 weeks later, when we grabbed coffee, that Chelsea and Aaron had apparently ended things. She didn't know details. She'd just heard. I said, okay, and meant it. Not as a performance. It genuinely didn't matter. What was already broken was already broken. His absence didn't repair anything. Her regret, if it was real, didn't unwrite anything. I was somewhere else now. Somewhere that had my name on it. About 2 months after the breakup, I ran into a friend of a friend at a house party. Her name was Petra. She had paint under her fingernails and argued about a film with me for 20 minutes straight and was completely, entertainingly wrong about all of it. And I thought, oh, so that's what starting feels like. I didn't get her number that night. I wasn't ready, but I smiled the whole drive home. And that was enough. The last thing Chelsea ever sent me, 3 weeks after the breakup, one final message, was this. I hope you know I did love you. I read it. I thought about the pasta she'd taught me to make. The hoodies she stole every winter. Her dad at Christmas. Her sister calling me brother-in-law. The ring tab. The mirror. The shoulder. The earring. Peace at last relieved face. And then I thought about the version of me that had apologized for being distant. At her table, while her phone buzzed face down. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something that wasn't grief. I put my phone down, and I never replied. Some people don't leave because they stop loving you. They leave because they never fully arrived. And the kindest thing you can do for yourself is stop standing at a door that was already closed from the inside.